When you look at a chicken, it's hard to believe that you're staring at a distant relative of the fearsome Tyrannosaurus rex. But that's what science claims. Bird DNA shares common traits with ancient predators. Scientists even refer to the chicken as a living reminder of dinosaurs. It turns out that millions of years ago, terrifying giants ruled the planet, and today their descendants run around backyards and lay eggs. It's amusing how nature has changed the role of these creatures, from kings to simple inhabitants of rural homesteads. And now when you see a chicken, you might think, here it is, a small shadow of the great T-Rex, stepping into modernity. The oldest joke was found on a clay tablet in Mesopotamia and dates back to around 1900 BC. And funny enough, it's a joke about gas. It says, never has it happened that a woman did not fart in front of her husband. Humor, it turns out, is timeless. 4,000 years have passed, and the themes haven't changed. It's amusing that scholars, while deciphering the ancient text, discovered not only laws and myths, but also this little everyday joke. It seems people have always enjoyed joking about the simple and relatable. Giant whales are not just marine giants, but also true sanitizers of the climate. When a whale dies, its massive body sinks to the ocean floor, taking with it tons of carbon. This is roughly equivalent to the emissions produced by 100 cars over their lifetime. So whales help clean the atmosphere simply by living their lives. Scientists refer to them as carbon graveyards, but it doesn't sound sad at all. Each whale makes the world a cleaner place. It's amusing that the largest creature on the planet, weighing hundreds of tons, works in harmony with nature to ensure we breathe fresh air. Imagine this. What we call a banana tree is actually not a tree at all. It doesn't have a real wooden trunk, it's just tightly rolled leaves. Essentially, the banana is the tallest grass on the planet. So you walk through a garden, see this massive plant, and think, definitely a tree, while botanists smile slyly. It's amusing that the fruits we eat in the morning actually grow on a giant blade of grass. Picture a lawn in front of your house, but the size of a 3-story building. That's the green paradox of nature. Today, humanity has explored only 1 to 5% of the ocean. Everything else remains in the dark depths, where humans have rarely ventured. Unknown species, entire ecosystems, and even new sources of energy may be hidden there. Imagine, we know more about the moon than about the ocean floor. This paradox astonishes scientists and fuels the imagination. What lies beneath? Giant creatures, underwater cities, or just darkness? Each new descent of exploration devices reveals a piece of this mystery. It turns out that the ocean is the last great enigma on Earth. The word robot first appeared in a play by Czech writer Karel Čapek in 1920. In his play, RUR, robots were artificial workers created for hard labor. Interestingly, the author derived the word from the Czech robota, meaning forced labor. Ironically, 100 years later, this word has become a symbol of future technologies. Today, robots clean homes, assemble cars, and even compose music. It turns out that it all started with the imagination of a writer who coined a word that changed the world. Want to know the secret of sleep? It turns out that the amount of sleep needed varies by age. Babies require about 10 to 11 hours, teenagers need 9 to 10, adults get by with 7 to 8, and older adults may manage with just 6. Our bodies seem to adjust their internal clocks throughout life. Imagine, a child is fussy without sleep, a teenager sleeps in until noon, an adult enjoys rare weekends with long sleep, and an elderly person rises cheerfully at dawn. Sleep is universal fuel for the brain, but each age group has its own refueling norm. In English, there is a word, strengths, and it is special. It is the longest word with just one vowel. Despite its simplicity, it symbolizes strength, resilience, and endurance. It's amusing that such a word is unique in its structure. It contains 8 consonants in a row, yet it sounds easy and familiar. This little linguistic record shows that even in words, we can find our own championships. Language, like nature, holds its secrets and wonders, and sometimes they are hidden in the most ordinary things, in a word we use almost every day. In Bhutan, Almost half of the residents walk to work every day. The roads there don't always accommodate cars, and the mountainous terrain makes walking a natural part of life. Imagine, in the morning people ascend trails with views of the Himalayas, and in the evening, they return the same way. For them, it's not about sports or fitness, it's just a regular means of getting around. Perhaps that's why Bhutanese are considered some of the happiest people. They connect work with nature every day, breathe fresh air, and enjoy stunning landscapes. Many have noticed the small colored squares at the bottom of toothpaste tubes. Rumors claim that they indicate the composition. Green means natural, red means chemical. But in reality, these are just marks for machines at the factory. They help accurately position the tube during packaging and labeling. The color of the square is not related to the ingredients, simply a technical marker. It turns out we've been attributing significance to ordinary paint stripes for decades. It's amusing how easily myths are born. A small square can transform into a secret code, when in fact it's only meant for the assembly line. When we see an iceberg, it appears to be a massive chunk of ice proudly floating in the ocean. But the most treacherous part is that 90% of its mass is hidden beneath the surface. This means we only see a small tip, while the bulk remains concealed in the depths. This is why icebergs are so dangerous for ships. The underwater portion can be many times larger than what is visible. It's no wonder the Titanic collided with such a massive block, completely unaware of its scale. An iceberg is like an iceberg of problems. What's on the surface is just a small part. The water keeps its secrets deep, and they can be fatal for those who underestimate the danger. You won't believe it, but a parrot swore at the funeral of a U.S. president. Andrew Jackson, the 7th president of America, had a favorite parrot. His owner often cursed, and the bird quickly picked up the habit. When Jackson died, the parrot was brought to the funeral, but instead of a solemn silence, the guests heard a stream of profanity. The priest had to ask for it to be removed to avoid embarrassing the attendees. It created a strange scene. A president, known for his strong character and his feathered friend, who seemed to continue his speech even after death. The story shows that even parrots can leave a vivid legacy. It turns out that we perceive smells not only with our noses. Our skin has receptors that respond to aromatic substances. Scientists conducted experiments by applying certain scents to the skin and observed that the cells reacted. Moreover, some aromas accelerated wound healing. It seems that our skin acts like an additional sense organ that quietly works in the background. Imagine if we could smell the aroma of coffee not just with our noses, but also with our palms. While this sounds fantastic, research shows that the skin does indeed pick up chemical signals. We all dream of hitting the big jackpot, but the odds are so slim that even the trip to buy a ticket is more dangerous. Statistics show that the likelihood of dying on the way to the kiosk is higher than winning the grand prize. It's funny, but it's true. This doesn't mean buying a ticket is pointless. After all, excitement and hope are part of the game. But it's important to remember, true luck isn't about winning millions. It's about getting home safe. So when someone says, "I'm pretty sure I'm going to win," you can reply, "The main thing is not to get into an accident on the way." Sometimes just living life is the biggest win. There's a myth that a duck's quack doesn't echo. In reality, that's not true. Physics works the same for all sounds. It's just that a duck's quack has a frequency and duration that make the echo seem quiet and unnoticeable. In a quiet place, you can catch it, but under normal conditions, it fades away. So the myth arises from the peculiarities of our hearing, not from nature itself. It's amusing how often we create legends to explain ordinary things. A duck quacks with an echo. It's just hard to hear. So next time by the pond, try to listen closely. You might catch that hidden stereo. In Venice, there is an unusual museum that showcases items recovered from the bottom of the canals. You can see coins, ancient tools, jewelry, and even musical instruments that have been submerged for centuries. Each exhibit is a piece of history, accidentally lost and later found. Imagine walking through the city, and somewhere beneath your feet in the mud lies a lost ring or a merchant's wallet, only to be unearthed by archaeologists centuries later. This museum brings the past to life, revealing not the grand Venice, but its everyday life. It serves as a reminder that every forgotten object could one day become part of a larger story. Strangely, female tarantulas live much longer than males, up to 40 years. While males have a short lifespan after reaching maturity, females can survive for several decades. Moreover, they can go without food for up to 2 years if they have access to water. This resilience makes them some of the most unusual spiders. For many, tarantulas symbolize fear, but in reality, they are surprisingly patient and enduring creatures. Their lives are slow, almost stretched out in time. And if spiders know how to wait, female tarantulas are true champions of this art. Who would have thought that an albatross can fly for hours without flapping its wings? These seabirds are true masters of gliding. They skillfully utilize the air currents above the ocean, allowing them to soar for hours with minimal energy expenditure. Some albatrosses spend years at sea, rarely landing on land. They sleep on the water, feed on fish, and feel at home in the ocean. Imagine a whole life in the sky above the sea, where wings become sails. Albatrosses are a symbol of freedom, and their ability to fly almost effortlessly amazes even scientists. Today, over 4,000 active satellites orbit our planet. They provide us with navigation, communication, weather forecasting, and even climate monitoring. However, as the number of satellites increases each year, scientists are increasingly discussing the problem of space debris. The more technology there is in orbit, the higher the risk of collisions. Imagine a vast network of thousands of lights above us that we can't see, yet they make our lives more convenient every day. Every phone or car contains a small part of their work. Space has long ceased to be empty. It has become a busy highway with continuous traffic. Sloths are known for their slow lifestyle. They can hang on a tree for hours, moving at a leisurely pace. But they have an amazing skill. They can hold their breath for up to 40 minutes. In comparison, a human can typically hold their breath for 1 to 2 minutes. This ability helps sloths hide from predators and even swim across rivers while staying underwater. It seems incredible that such a slow creature possesses a superpower that few people know about. Their slowness, combined with respiratory endurance, makes them true survival masters, proving that their outward laziness is merely a facade hiding smart adaptations. Ordinary clay unexpectedly gave the world the image of a piggy bank. In fact, the term piggy bank has nothing to do with animals. In Old English, there was a word pig, which referred to red clay. This clay was used to make pots and jars for storing coins. Over time, the banks themselves became associated with this word. However, people later began to interpret pig as pig. Thus, the idea of making banks in the shape of piglets was born. This resulted in a remarkable example of how a linguistic mix-up created an iconic symbol of children's savings. Who would have thought that the most stolen book in the world is the Bible? Despite the sanctity of the text, it is the Bible that is most often the target of theft. In hotels, libraries, and stores, it is stolen more frequently than any other book. Perhaps it's because it's always within reach, or because someone considers it public property. Ironically, the book that contains the commandment, "Thou shalt not steal," is most often the one that gets stolen. This serves as a reminder that even the most elevated ideas can clash with the everyday weaknesses of human nature. It may seem surprising, but trousers, once considered a symbol of savagery, were ridiculed by the ancient Greeks, who mocked the Persians for wearing them, calling them bags. For the Greeks and Romans, the tunic was the attire of a civilized person. Trousers were seen as coarse and barbaric clothing until the Romans, expanding northward, encountered the Celts and adopted this practical wardrobe item. It's amusing to think that today, it's hard to imagine our world without trousers, while they were once a sign of barbarism. The history of fashion knows how to take incredible turns. We tend to think of the skin as just a shell that protects the body, but in reality, it resembles a vast city inhabited by billions of tiny neighbors, bacteria, fungi, and other microbes. Their numbers exceed those of all the people on Earth. Sounds alarming? Actually, it's a good thing. These invisible residents help keep the skin healthy, fight infections, and maintain balance. You could say that everyone has a personal army of bodyguards that we don't even notice. They live with us constantly, day and night, maintaining order on the skin's surface. So the next time you think about cleanliness, remember, your skin is a whole kingdom of invisible allies. Chinese woman Xi Jinping became famous for not cutting her hair for over 40 years. She started growing it at the age of 13 and reached a length of 5.62 meters. That's almost 18 feet. Just imagine how much time it takes to care for such a braid. Brushing alone takes a couple of hours, and washing is a whole ritual. Sometimes she braids her hair or wraps it around herself to make it easier to move. Her record is listed in the Guinness Book of Records, and so far no one has broken it. It's reminiscent of the tale of Rapunzel, but in real life, where determination and patience become a true legend. In Switzerland, animal welfare is taken to the level of laws. You can't keep a single guinea pig alone, only in pairs or groups. This is because these little creatures are very social and quickly become sad and even ill without company. Imagine buying one guinea pig, and you could face a fine, as the state considers loneliness to be real suffering for them. On the bright side, owners know that their pets live in small groups where they can always interact, sleep together, or share a carrot. This law demonstrates that animals are not toys but living beings with feelings, and they deserve to be treated with humanity. In Rome, a pizza over 40 meters in diameter was once baked. It was named Ottavia in honor of the Roman emperor. The weight of this culinary monster exceeded 23 tons. Special ovens and a team of pizzaiolos worked for several days to prepare it. Imagine a square where instead of asphalt, there's a giant crust topped with tomato sauce and cheese. This pizza could feed an entire city. Interestingly, it was completely gluten-free, ensuring that the record not only amazed but also catered to those with dietary restrictions. A true gastronomic spectacle for all of Italy. Vladimir Lenin was not only a revolutionary but also an avid chess player. During his exile in Siberia, he played correspondence games, solved chess problems in studies, and later often used chess metaphors in his writings. For him, chess was not just a game, but a training ground for strategic thinking. Imagine, he could manage several games at once while in exile and simultaneously work on political texts. Chess helped him hone his patience and ability to calculate moves. Thus, the revolutionary known for decisive actions was a cool-headed strategist on the board, capable of waiting for the right moment to make a winning move. Imagine that the North Star is not just a solitary light, but a whole family. We tend to think of the North Star as a lone beacon for travelers in the night. However, it is not a singleton, but rather an entire ensemble. There lies a trio, the bright Polaris A, its tiny companion Polaris AB, and the neighbor Polaris B. To us on Earth, they merge into a single point, but through astronomers' telescopes, this celestial trio becomes visible. Picture a lantern where the light comes not from one bulb, but from an entire string of lights. It's symbolic. Even the guiding star, which has served as a landmark for centuries, does not stand alone, but is part of a team. Who would have thought that the hockey mask was invented by a Japanese man? In 1936, goalie Teiji Honma took to the ice in an unusual piece of equipment, a face mask resembling a samurai helmet. At the time, his idea seemed strange, but it later became the foundation for modern protective gear in hockey. Today, it's hard to imagine a goalie without a mask, but it was once considered unnecessary. Honma was a pioneer who blended the traditions of his culture with the sport. Thanks to him, hockey gained an item that has saved the health of thousands of players around the world. A herd of goats is referred to in an unusual way. Nannies and billies. The females are called nannies, while the males are billies. This amusing terminology highlights their personalities. The goat always appears caring yet stubborn, while the buck is independent and proud. Imagine a farm where the shepherd calls not just a herd, but a team of nannies and billies. It adds a touch of humor to simple rural life. Such names show that people have always tried to see in animals not just food or assistance, but also their unique characters. The Incas in South America built suspension bridges made of grass and vines 2,000 years ago. These woven structures connected the banks of mountain rivers and served as real roads between villages. Every year, the residents of nearby villages would reweave the ropes to ensure the bridge remained strong. Imagine, dozens of people gather, weaving ropes from grass and renewing an entire bridge as one big ritual. Despite the simplicity of the materials, these bridges could support not only people but also caravans with cargo. This is an amazing example of how engineering can emerge directly from nature. The most numerous bird in the world is neither the sparrow nor the pigeon, but the tiny red-billed qualia. This small bird, found in Africa south of the Sahara, gathers in massive flocks and literally devastates grain fields. For farmers, they are a true plague. Thousands of these birds can strip a harvest in just a few hours. The flocks of quailias are so enormous that they appear like a moving cloud. Scientists consider them the most abundant bird species on Earth. Ironically, in cities we tend to view pigeons as symbols of mass presence, but the record actually belongs to these small African weavers. Today, the computer mouse is a familiar accessory, lightweight and made of plastic. However, the first mouse, created in 1964 by engineer Douglas Engelbart, was made of wood. Inside, there were metal wheels that tracked movement across the table. The device looked strange and bulky, but it marked the beginning of a new era. It's hard to believe that from such a simple wooden box, modern touchpads and wireless gadgets emerged. This story serves as a reminder. Great technologies often arise from very humble beginnings, and sometimes all it takes is one wooden experiment to change the world. If you take a standard deck of 52 cards and shuffle it well, you can't even imagine what you're holding in your hands. The number of possible combinations is so vast that it can be expressed with 60 zeros. Imagine shuffling the cards, and almost certainly you get a unique order that has never existed in human history and will never exist again. Each time, it's like creating a new universe right on the table. Playing cards after this feels like real magic. A simple game transforms into a journey through infinite possibilities. Even a regular game of Durac or poker suddenly gains special significance, as in your hands a unique combination is born that will vanish forever the moment you gather the cards back. Once oranges were not orange at all. Their ancestors, grown in Southeast Asia, had green skin. Even today in tropical regions, oranges often remain green, although inside they are fully ripe and sweet. Only in cooler countries does the skin lose chlorophyll and turn the familiar orange color. So, orange is more of a climatic coincidence. Imagine a supermarket where all the oranges are green. People would think they are unripe. In reality, that's how they looked in their true historical form. Scientists have noticed an intriguing habit. When leaving a cave, bats almost always turn left. Why? One theory suggests that this helps them avoid collisions in their large colony. Imagine an intersection without traffic lights, where thousands of cars decide to go only in one direction. It's the same for bats. This common rule of movement makes flying safer. What seems trivial to us is a matter of survival for them. In the dark, order is especially important, and nature has elegantly solved this issue. Left it is. Did you know that the Amish fundamentally do not wear mustaches? This religious group is known for its conservative lifestyle. No electricity, no cars, and traditional clothing. Amish men grow beards but never leave mustaches. The reason is that in the 19th century, mustaches were associated with the military, and the Amish have always been committed pacifists. For them, mustaches symbolize war and violence, which is why they reject them. It turns out that even a small detail of appearance can become a powerful symbol of beliefs and a reflection of one's worldview. Sometimes a word that sounds like a joke hides a very real pain in the muscles. Karipatura is a term sometimes used to refer to muscle soreness, that familiar feeling when your muscles start to ache after a workout. Scientifically, it's called delayed onset muscle soreness and occurs due to micro tears in the fibers. The body responds to the strain with inflammation to repair the tissues, which is why the muscles hurt more the next day. In everyday life, this is perceived as a punishment for exercising, but in reality, it's a sign that the body is adapting and becoming stronger. One could say that Karipatura is a receipt that the body gives you for the work done. Human hearing is limited to frequencies ranging from about 20 to 20,000 hertz. Anything below is infrasound, and anything above is ultrasound. We can't hear them, but animals can. Dogs respond to whistles that sound like silence to us, while dolphins communicate using frequencies beyond our hearing range. This means that the world around us is much richer in sounds than we can perceive. It's as if we're listening to a radio on one frequency, while there are dozens of stations. This serves as a reminder that our senses are just a small filter of reality. China has built the longest bridge in the world, the Danyang Kunshan Grand Viaduct. It stretches over 160 kilometers. This high-speed railway connects major cities. Imagine riding a train while an endless bridge stretches beneath you, disappearing into the horizon. The construction took just 4 years, with thousands of engineers and workers involved. This bridge stands as a symbol of humanity's ability to conquer even the vastest spaces, turning impossible distances into ordinary roads. Iceland is one of the few places on Earth without mosquitoes. The climate here is such that insects can't complete their life cycle. It's too cold in winter and the temperature changes too rapidly in summer. For tourists, it's a paradise. You can stroll through forests and by lakes without the annoying buzzing. The locals joke that this is one of their country's main advantages. Imagine, summer, a campfire, a tent, and not a single mosquito bite. For us, it sounds like a dream, but for Icelanders, it's just a way of life. The story of the first feature film in human history remains forever incomplete. In 1906, Australia produced The Story of the Kelly Gang, a film that lasted over an hour, which was a technical marvel for its time. Audiences were thrilled, but only a quarter of the film has survived to this day. The rest is irretrievably lost. Imagine if the first novel by Tolstoy or an early painting by Picasso had vanished. We know the film existed and understand its significance, but future viewers will never experience it in its entirety. The history of cinema began with a mystery that will always remain untold. The peregrine falcon is the speed champion among animals. In a hunting dive, it can reach the speeds of nearly 400 kilometers per hour. That's faster than a Formula One car. The secret lies in the bird folding its wings, transforming into a living arrow. Imagine watching a pigeon in the sky, and suddenly a peregrine falcon swoops down from above at breakneck speed, catches it, and ascends again. It all happens in seconds, and the prey doesn't even have time to realize what just occurred. This natural predator demonstrates that bird aerodynamics have been perfected. The world of mammals is diverse. Some run, some swim, some jump. But only bats can truly fly. Their wings are membranes stretched over elongated fingers, not feathers like birds. This structure makes them incredibly agile. Additionally, bats use echolocation. They emit sounds that bounce off objects, allowing them to navigate in the dark by the echoes. This enables them to hunt at night with missile-like precision. Bats play a crucial role in the ecosystem, consuming millions of insects and pollinating plants. These small nocturnal hunters are true masters of the air. A sunset on Mars is a true wonder. Unlike Earth, where the sky is painted in shades of red and orange, on Mars the sun sets in a blue glow. This is due to the planet's thin atmosphere, which scatters light differently than ours. As a result, the daytime sky appears pale yellow, and at sunset, the horizon ignites with a stunning blue light. Astronauts who find themselves there will witness a truly alien landscape. Imagine standing on the cold Martian plains, gazing up at a foreign yet mesmerizing sky. It's like a painting by an artist who decided to swap the usual colors. The starfish eats in a rather unusual way. It turns its stomach inside out and wraps it around its prey, such as a shell. The food is digested externally and then the stomach is pulled back in. It's like a portable container. Take it out, eat, and put it away. This method allows the starfish to handle prey that is difficult to swallow whole. It's amusing that behind the calm appearance of these sea creatures lies such a trick with their stomachs. They seem to know the secret to an unconventional approach to eating. You've probably seen a flamingo or a duck standing on one leg. This isn't acrobatics. It's a way to conserve heat. Birds lose a lot of energy through their legs, and by tucking one leg under their feathers, they reduce heat loss by almost half. It would seem wild for us. Try standing like that for even 10 minutes. But flamingos can even sleep while balancing on one leg, like yogis in nature. Scientists call it unilateral resting, but essentially it's just a comfortable habit. Birds know the secret to comfort better than we do. In the old houses of Venice and Florence, secret staircases hidden within the walls are still being discovered. Aristocrats built them as a backup escape route in case of danger or attack. These concealed passages led to secret rooms or allowed for a discreet exit from the house. Today, such discoveries captivate tourists. You enter an old mansion and suddenly find a small door, behind which lies a narrow spiral staircase leading who knows where. It feels as if the house itself is guarding its secrets. These architectural tricks serve as a reminder that life in past centuries was not only luxurious, but also dangerous, requiring caution and clever solutions. In Antarctica, amidst icy landscapes, there is a place where a stream of crimson water flows from beneath a glacier. It has been dubbed the Blood Falls. In reality, the water is colored due to a high iron content. It oxidizes and gives off that hue. However, it looks truly eerie. The pristine white ice in the Red River resemble a scene from a horror movie. Scientists believe that beneath the ice lies an ancient lake with microorganisms that thrive in conditions with almost no oxygen. Thus, the Blood Falls are not only a spectacle, but also a clue about life in extreme conditions. The carnivorous plant Venus flytrap can literally count. When an insect touches its sensitive hairs, the trap doesn't close immediately. The plant waits for a second touch to ensure it's not just a random raindrop or a speck of dust. If the touch is repeated, the lobes snap shut. Scientists have found that the flytrap keeps an internal count, and a specific number of stimuli is also needed for digestion. This means the plant has a primitive memory and a decision-making system. This makes it resemble a creature with a brain, even though it doesn't have one. Sharks have no bones. Their skeletons are entirely made of cartilage. This makes their bodies light and flexible, like a spring. Sharks can turn sharply and dart towards their prey with lightning speed, like a perfectly oiled machine. This also allows them to grow throughout their lives. Some species can reach lengths of up to 12 meters. Imagine a fish the size of a bus, yet so agile that it can easily maneuver around any obstacles. The secret to its success lies in this paradox. No bones means no weight, only speed and freedom of movement. A group of owls is called a parliament. This sounds very symbolic, as the owl has been regarded as a wise bird since ancient times. In Greek mythology, it accompanied the goddess Athena, and in the Middle Ages, it became a symbol of knowledge and magic. Perhaps that's why people decided that a gathering of owls resembles a meeting of sages discussing important matters. Imagine a forest at night. Dozens of owls perched on branches, conversing as if they were discussing an agenda. Of course, they have no politics, but the term has taken root in the language. This is a wonderful example of how human imagination gives animals vivid and memorable names. The elephant's trunk is a true marvel of nature. Imagine an organ with around 40,000 muscles, more than the entire human body. Because of this, an elephant can tear off heavy branches, gently pick up a small berry, and even embrace its young. They use their trunks to drink water, make sounds, and play, almost like hands. Baby elephants sometimes even suck on their trunks, like children do with their thumbs to soothe themselves. It's hard to believe that one tube can perform so many tasks, from brute strength to gentle gestures. That's why the elephant's trunk is one of the most unique and multifunctional tools created by nature. Sharks have a secret that dentists can only dream of. Their teeth are coated with natural fluoride. Imagine a smile that never knows cavities. These predators replace their teeth hundreds of times throughout their lives, and each new one grows in perfectly healthy and strong. Sharks don't use toothbrushes or toothpaste, yet their jaws always look like a Hollywood star on the red carpet. That's why sharks can hunt for decades without worrying about pain or treatment. If humans had the same advantage, dentists could be turned into museums. This is where people worked when teeth still broke. In Texas, there's a place that tourists call the Doll Graveyard Town. Once a mining settlement, it is now filled with hundreds of old dolls. They stand on fences, sit in houses, and hang from trees, creating an atmosphere straight out of a mystical film. The locals have turned this into a quirky attraction, offering tours and joking that the dolls rule the town. Of course, it's all in good fun, but it truly looks eerie. Strolling through the streets among the doll residents is not for the faint of heart. Imagine that life on Earth could hit a reset button. There's a chilling hypothesis called Medea. It suggests that microbes can trigger mass extinction events. The idea is that microorganisms, which have dominated the planet for billions of years, can alter the environment so drastically that complex life simply ceases to exist. It's as if Earth returns to a primordial state. This concept is controversial yet eerie. Nature sometimes seems to reset its experiments, as if pressing a restart button. We tend to view life as invincible, but this theory reminds us that its greatest enemy might be itself. Off the coast of Mauritius, there is a breathtaking sight. It looks as if a giant waterfall is crashing into the ocean right by the shore. In reality, this is an optical illusion. Ocean currents carry sand and sediment in such a way that it creates the impression of a swift flow downward into the abyss. From above, the view is fantastic. The water seems to plunge through the edge of the ocean. Tourists specifically fly here to witness this natural wonder with their own eyes. In reality, there is no chasm, but the beauty of the illusion is so striking that it is considered one of the most mesmerizing landscapes on the planet. Did you know that the Pentagon cannot account for half of its budget? The U.S. Department of Defense is regularly audited, and each time it turns out that a huge portion of its expenses remains unverified. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars. The reasons include the complexity of the system, bureaucracy, and sometimes plain negligence. But for taxpayers, it sounds absurd. The world's largest military spends money, but can't accurately explain where it goes. This fact has become a source of numerous conspiracy theories and distrust in the government. In any case, it's a striking example of how even a massive organization can get lost in its own accounts. On the island of St. Helena lives a tortoise named Jonathan, who is around 190 years old. He was born in the 19th century and has witnessed changes in eras, wars, and technologies. Imagine, when Jonathan was young, there was no electricity in every home, and now people are launching satellites into space. Yet the tortoise continues to peacefully graze on grass and bask in the sun. His life is like a living chronicle of history. People come from all over the world just to catch a glimpse of this time machine with a shell. Want to hear one of the strangest reasons for toxicity? Bright poison dart frogs are deadly. Their skin secretes a toxin that can kill a human. But here's the surprising part. They aren't toxic on their own. In captivity, where they are fed a regular diet, their skin becomes safe. It turns out the secret lies in their diet. In the wild, they eat specific ants and insects that contain toxic substances. So the poison is a result of their nutrition. Nature seems to show that even a small frog can become a weapon if it has the right ingredients on its menu. Flamingos can stand on one leg for hours. For us, it's a feat of balance, but for them, it's complete relaxation. Their joints are structured in a way that makes holding the pose easy and almost effortless. Think of it as having a built-in freeze frame mode. Scientists don't fully understand how this works. It's as if their muscles lock in place, allowing the bird to even fall asleep without losing balance. Imagine a yogi meditating in a complex pose for hours, but without the slightest tension. For flamingos, it's as natural as sitting in a chair is for us. You won't believe it, but some human cells continue to live decades after their owner's death. In 1951, samples were taken from Henrietta Lacks's tumor, and her cells turned out to be immortal. They divided faster than normal and didn't age. These cells, known as HeLa cells, became the foundation for numerous studies, from vaccine development to cancer research. Today, they continue to thrive in laboratories around the world. Ironically, Henrietta herself was unaware of her legacy, and her family struggled for recognition for a long time. It turns out that one person unknowingly gifted science a priceless tool. A coincidence made Nicolas Cage a high school biology teacher in Serbia. In the 1990s, a school textbook was published in Serbia, and a still from the movie Raising Arizona, featuring Cage holding a baby, mistakenly ended up on the cover. For several years, students would open the textbook and immediately see the Hollywood star as if he were a serious illustrator of school science. It's an absurd detail, but it only adds to the humor. The actor inadvertently became a resource for Serbian schoolchildren. Who knows, maybe that cover inspired someone to take an interest in biology for the first time. Even wild wolves know how to wag their tails, and they do it with a specific meaning. We are used to dogs expressing joy and friendliness this way, but their wild ancestors, the wolves, do the same thing, albeit with a different significance. Young wolves wag their tails in front of older ones, showing respect and submission. Sometimes the tail helps to ease a tense situation. It's a way of saying, "I'm not a threat. I acknowledge your authority." Thus, this gesture in dogs is not a coincidence, but an ancient legacy. It's amusing to think that when you play with your dog's tail, you are witnessing an echo of the behavior of its distant ancestors who lived in forests and packs. In the Middle Ages, there was an unusual unit of volume, the ton, but it wasn't the familiar weight measurement. It referred to the amount of wine that could fit in a huge barrel. Merchants and winemakers used this method of measurement for trade. Imagine, at a fair, deals were made not in liters or even barrels, but in whole tons of wine. Today, this word is associated with heaviness and mass, but once it was linked to joy and feasting. This detail of history serves as a reminder that many modern terms originated from very practical needs of the past, when wine was almost a currency. The tall towers on old fire stations were not just for aesthetics, but served practical purposes. If you look closely at these old buildings, you can almost always spot a high tower. It was used not only for watching over the city and signaling fires, but also for drying long hoses after use. Wet hoses couldn't be stored coiled up. They would deteriorate quickly, so they were hung in the tower, stretching down to their full length. Sometimes signal balls or lanterns were displayed on the tower to alert neighboring stations about a fire. Thus, these towers functioned as dryers, communication systems, and symbols of vigilance. A story that sounds like a spy novel. Scientologists infiltrated U.S. government agencies. In the 1970s, followers of this religion conducted Operation Snow White. Their goal was to destroy documents that could harm the church. Scientologists secretly entered buildings, stole materials, and attempted to sabotage investigations. Ultimately, the FBI uncovered the conspiracy, making it one of the largest cases of illegal infiltration into government structures. For many, this event was shocking. A religious organization operated using intelligence agency tactics. It turns out that real life can sometimes be far more dramatic than fiction in movies. Planes fly faster from west to east thanks to jet streams, powerful air currents at high altitudes. Imagine a giant river of air rushing above the clouds. When a plane enters this current, it's like being picked up by a conveyor belt. As a result, the flight from New York to London is a couple of hours shorter than the return trip. It turns out that there are highways in the sky, and pilots make good use of them. We hardly notice it while sitting in our seats with coffee, but it's this invisible wind that makes our journey quicker. The chicken is a bird, but there's nothing eagle-like about its flight. The longest flight ever recorded lasted just 13 seconds. For comparison, that's less time than it takes to count to 15. The reason is simple. A chicken's body is heavy, and its wing muscles are not developed enough for long flights. However, these short bursts allow chickens to jump over fences or fly up into trees to escape danger. So a chicken flies just enough to survive. And while its flights may not be impressive, it remains a unique bird in its own right, an ancestor of dinosaurs and a staple of the farmyard. In Madagascar, baobabs grow, captivating not only with their appearance but also with their remarkable ability. Their roots can move in search of moisture. Of course, the tree itself doesn't walk, but its root system gradually extends in the necessary direction, creating the illusion that the baobab is shifting across the ground. This adaptation helps it survive in drought conditions. For the locals, the baobab is a sacred tree, a symbol of strength and longevity. Its fruits and leaves are used for food and medicine, while the trunk can serve as a home or a water reservoir. The baobab stands as a guardian of the island, capable of finding a way even where hope seems lost. Trends in animal fashion often lead to illness and suffering for them. So-called designer dog and cat breeds look unusual and cute. Short legs, flat faces, and huge eyes. However, behind this cuteness lie serious problems. Due to artificial selection, these animals frequently suffer from congenital diseases, ranging from breathing issues to joint deformities. In Scotland, a law has even been passed to prohibit the breeding of such breeds to prevent further suffering. People aim to make animals more beautiful, but instead, they have bestowed upon them constant torment. This is a striking example of how the desire for fashion can turn against nature itself. In 2019, Bulgarian Vasily Ivanov set an unusual record by blowing out 58 candles in one breath. He used a special device that directed the airflow to all the candles at once. Just imagine the strength of the lungs needed to handle that many flames. A regular person struggles to blow out a dozen candles on a cake, and here he managed a whole string of them. This record made it into the Guinness Book and serves as an example of how even a simple action like blow harder can be turned into a world achievement. In ancient Rome, fashion could be both strange and bold. To achieve a rich, dark hair color, noble women used not dye, but leeches. They would take them, place them in a vessel, let them ferment, and then apply the resulting goo to their hair. It sounds horrifying, but at the time it was considered a true beauty secret. Imagine a modern salon. A client walks in and is offered leeches shampoo. We would run away in horror, but for the Romans, it was a normal grooming ritual. Interestingly, thousands of years later, we are still willing to undergo bizarre procedures for beauty, only now they smell a lot better. About 10% of people on the planet are left-handed. The world is primarily designed for right-handed individuals, from scissors and door handles to school desks. However, left-handed people often stand out with a unique style of thinking. There's a theory that their brain hemispheres function differently, which may explain the prevalence of creative and unconventional personalities among them. Imagine living in a world where everything is slightly inconvenient, yet this inconvenience can sometimes spark ingenuity. Left-handed individuals seem to see the world from a different perspective. Tokyo Tower is very similar to the Eiffel Tower, but it's painted in orange and white. The most interesting part is that it weighs almost half as much. This is due to the new generation steel used in its construction in the 1950s. The lightweight yet strong metal allowed for the creation of a massive structure without unnecessary heaviness. It turned out to be an acrobatic building, tall, stable, and yet slim. The tower became a symbol of Japan's recovery after the war, and its silhouette still adorns Tokyo. It serves as a reminder that technology can be both powerful and elegant. Some bridges are capable of producing sounds when people walk on them. For example, in London, there is the Millennium Bridge, which features special plates that create a voice effect. The sounds resemble whispers or soft footsteps, and at night, the bridge transforms into an almost mystical place. Tourists love this effect. As they stroll, they become part of a unique concert. There's a feeling that the city itself has a voice, which it reveals only to attentive listeners. These bridges are an example of how architecture can be not only functional, but also emotional, turning an ordinary crossing over a river into a memorable experience. Today, we send each other emojis, hearts, and pizza in chats as if they've always existed. But the first emojis appeared in Japan in the late 90s. There were only 176 of them, and they looked very simple: a sun, a phone, a smiling face. Back then, it seemed trivial, but now emojis have turned into a real language understood all over the world. It's amusing that the idea came from a Japanese mobile company. They just wanted to make communication easier for their users. Now the entire world expresses emotions through these tiny images. You could say that without these little symbols, texting would be dull, like tea without sugar. What if I told you that the eyes of mantis shrimp are more complex than human eyes? These tiny predators have unique vision. Each eye has 3 pupils and up to 16 types of light-sensitive cells. In comparison, humans have only three. Mantis shrimp can see ultraviolet, infrared, and even polarized light. Their vision is so extraordinary that it helps scientists develop new camera and sensor technologies. It turns out that within the tiny body of this crustacean lies a biological supercosmos that surpasses the capabilities of our eyes and even the best cameras. High humidity can make heat almost unbearable for a person. When it's hot and humid outside, the body literally loses its ability to cool down. The thing is, sweat stops evaporating from the skin, meaning the body can't shed excess heat. As a result, we feel weakness, fatigue, and even stress. It's like trying to dry laundry on a foggy day. It stays wet no matter how much time passes. That's why high humidity feels more oppressive than dry heat. The body simply can't cope with natural cooling. The paradox is that the first multicellular organisms went extinct almost immediately. 2 billion years ago, the Earth's atmosphere temporarily had more oxygen. This is when the first multicellular beings appeared. It seemed like life had taken a huge step forward. However, after a while, the oxygen levels dropped again, and these pioneers disappeared without leaving any descendants. Scientists refer to them as the Franzvillian biota because their remains were found in Africa. It turns out that nature's first trial run failed. Yet without it, we might not exist. Every failure in evolution paved the way for new attempts. It may seem strange that banknotes vary in size across different countries. In fact, this is done intentionally to make life easier for people with visual impairments. In euros or pounds, each banknote differs in length and width, allowing individuals to identify them by touch. This is convenient not only for the visually impaired, but for everyone else as well, reducing the chance of confusing denominations. In the US, however, all banknotes are the same size, making it difficult for tourists to quickly distinguish between them. Additionally, varying sizes serve as a protection against counterfeiting, as it is challenging for fraudsters to replicate precise dimensions. Thus, banknotes hold not only monetary value, but also a hidden consideration for the people who handle them daily. Excessively bright light can harm the psyche just as much as noise. We tend to think of light as a sign of comfort and safety, but too much of it can lead to stress, anxiety, and even headaches. Overly lit offices or shopping centers can be just as draining as loud sounds. Scientists refer to this phenomenon as light pollution for the mind. Just as laundry can't dry in fog, the brain can't rest in a constant stream of bright light. Therefore, it's important to regulate lighting. Sometimes soft, dim light is more beneficial than glaring lamps that turn a room into a sterile laboratory. Sound can not only be heard but also seen. This is demonstrated using so-called Chladni figures. A metal plate is sprinkled with sand and then vibrated using a bow or speaker. The grains of sand arrange themselves into intricate patterns, stars, circles, lines. Each frequency creates its own drawing. It's as if sound paints a picture right before your eyes. Interestingly, this experiment can even be replicated at home with simple materials. So music is not just something you hear, but also something you can see if you know the clever trick. The story of Arthur Tudor and Catherine of Aragon illustrates that even a common language doesn't always prevent misunderstandings. When Arthur Tudor, the brother of the future Henry VIII, first met his fiancée, Catherine of Aragon, it turned out they couldn't communicate verbally. The issue was that their correspondence had been conducted in Latin, but their pronunciations were so different that they simply couldn't understand each other. It's amusing that a language considered universal among the European nobility ultimately let the young couple down. Imagine, beautiful, formal letters, but in reality, there were just gestures and bewildered looks. The sea lily may seem like a flower, but it is actually an ancient animal. The name is misleading. Sea lilies look like flowers on long stems, but they are echinoderms, distant relatives of starfish and sea urchins. They live on the ocean floor and feed by filtering water, capturing tiny crustaceans and protozoa like living nets. Since ancient times, sea lilies have been considered some of the oldest creatures. Their ancestors appeared hundreds of millions of years ago and survived numerous mass extinctions. Interestingly, nature sometimes creates animals that resemble plants, which can confuse even scientists. The number of possible combinations in chess exceeds the number of atoms in the entire universe. Each new move opens up virtually infinite variations in the game. This is why no two games are ever exactly the same. Imagine playing a match with a friend, and theoretically, you create a unique variation that has never existed before. This transforms chess from just a game into a true art of strategy and imagination. It's no wonder they call it the royal game. Within those black and white squares lies a whole universe of possibilities. On Venus, there is an optical phenomenon similar to a rainbow, but it's called a glory. Instead of raindrops, tiny particles of sulfuric acid in the planet's dense atmosphere create it. As a result, bright-colored circles appear in the sky, resembling a glowing halo. Imagine not the familiar arc above the rain, but a true cosmic aura. This shows that even on other planets, nature puts on its own light and color shows, albeit with different ingredients. And even though Venus is distant and harsh, it can also be beautiful. Turtles are true long livers of the planet. They appeared over 200 million years ago, surviving dinosaurs, ice ages, and numerous catastrophes. Their shell is not just armor, but a part of their skeleton that protects them from enemies and aids in survival. Some species can live up to 150 years, and sea turtles are capable of crossing oceans, traveling thousands of kilometers in search of food. Think about it. Long before the first humans appeared, these slow creatures were already calmly walking the earth. Today, when we encounter a turtle, we are looking at a living relic, a piece of the ancient world that has managed to reach us almost in its original form. You've probably noticed that sometimes chocolate develops a white coating. Many people think it's spoiled, but no, it's just fat bloom. When cocoa butter rises to the surface due to temperature changes, the taste remains almost unchanged, and this chocolate is safe to eat. It's as if the bar has grayed from stress, looking odd on the outside, but still sweet on the inside. Interestingly, manufacturers sometimes explain this on the packaging so that people don't get scared. So if you see that white coating, don't throw it away. Just give it a second chance. Ocean giants, sperm whales, are capable of communicating over thousands of kilometers. These ocean behemoths use powerful vibrations for communication that travel through water over vast distances. Scientists suggest that one sperm whale can call another located on the other side of the ocean. However, these same vibrations can be dangerous for humans. Getting too close can lead to paralysis or even death. Thus, sperm whales have their own underwater telephone network that operates far more efficiently than many of our technologies. Their language has not yet been fully deciphered, but it is already clear that it is one of the most complex systems in the animal kingdom. Glass seems like something familiar to us. Windows, bottles, phone screens. But if you think about it, it's a true marvel of nature and human ingenuity. It all starts with ordinary sand, which is heated to temperatures over 1,400 degrees. It melts and transforms into a transparent material. This process has been known since the time of ancient Egypt, and since then it has hardly changed, only become more precise. Consider how amazing it is. What crunches under our feet on the beach can, after being subjected to fire, become a transparent window through which we view the world. Ordinary sand has the power to reshape civilization. In English, there is a record-breaking word, set. It has over 400 meanings. It all depends on the context. You can set the table, set the alarm, or set a record. The same short word can represent an action, a state, or an object. Imagine if we had a word that could mean book, to go, and bright. English is incredibly flexible in this regard, and such words make it rich and vibrant. For language learners, set is a real puzzle that requires a dictionary to navigate. In the 19th century, watermelon became not only a delicacy, but also a secret ingredient for juices. Watermelons were used not just as a standalone fruit, but also as a base for vitamin blends. They were added to juices to balance the flavor. Watermelon made the drink smoother and more pleasant, reducing the excess acidity and bitterness of other fruits. Imagine a glass of orange juice that's too sour to drink without grimacing. Add a bit of watermelon, and the taste becomes refreshing and harmonious. This technique is still used in cooking today, and it was once a true discovery. In Sweden, donors receive a message on their phone when their blood is used to save someone's life. Imagine, you donate blood, and a couple of days later, you get an SMS saying, "Thank you, today your blood helped a patient." It's not only a nice gesture, but also gives a sense that your action truly matters. People start donating blood more often because they see the results right on their phones. This simple step turns an ordinary procedure into a heartwarming story of human solidarity, and perhaps it's the best like in the world. Egypt can confidently be called the oldest state in the world. Its history spans over 5,000 years, beginning with the unification of Upper and Lower Kingdoms. The pyramids, temples, and the mysterious Nile are not just beautiful images, but symbols of a civilization that laid the foundation for many cultures. Imagine, while Europe was still unaware of writing, the Egyptians were already constructing majestic tombs and writing in hieroglyphs. And even though thousands of years have passed, Egypt still holds secrets that scholars are unraveling, like the pages of the oldest book in the world. Interestingly, would you guess that there are people who find pleasure simply in the process? These individuals are called autotelics. They don't need money, praise, or fame to engage in what they love. Their motivation comes from within. They can passionately draw, program, play an instrument, or write books, losing track of time. In psychology, autotelics are considered more resilient to stress and often experience a state of flow, where a person is completely absorbed in a task. For them, the outcome is not as important as the journey itself. It's like finding joy not only in the travel, but also in the very act of moving forward. Cows can climb stairs, but going down is almost an impossible mission for them. It all comes down to the structure of their legs. Their joints are designed in a way that stepping down leads to a loss of balance. Imagine a friend calling a cow to the second floor, only to end up needing special equipment to get it back down. It's amusing, but it serves as a reminder that every creature has its limitations. We can easily run down the steps, while for a cow, it's like sliding down a hill on skates without brakes. There is a specific disorder called dyscalculia, a kind of dyslexia for numbers. People with this condition struggle even with the simplest tasks. They find it hard to understand which number is larger, 6 or 7, or to count change in a store. Their ability to perceive time, navigate calculations, and remember numbers is often affected. Approximately 7.5% of people worldwide live with this condition. For them, math is not just a difficult subject, but an almost incomprehensible language. Interestingly, a person may be talented in music or art, yet numbers will remain a mystery to them. Have you ever wondered what dinosaurs actually sounded like? In the famous Jurassic Park, the monsters sound so terrifying that it sends chills down your spine. But the sound designers didn't find recordings of prehistoric reptiles. No one has ever heard them. Instead, they combined the most unexpected sounds, like the moans of mating turtles. These became the foundation for the fearsome roars on screen. It's amusing to imagine viewers holding their breath, believing in the terrifying roar of the T-Rex, while in the studio, sound engineers are stifling laughter, knowing that the king of the lizards sounds suspiciously romantic. The medieval chivalric order still exists and even issues its own passports. The Sovereign Military Order of Malta, founded during the Crusades, is recognized by the international community as a sovereign entity, despite not having its own territory. The order has its own passports, stamps, and even currency, the Maltese scudo. It boasts tens of thousands of knights, volunteers, and doctors working around the globe. Many find it surprising that this medieval institution continues to thrive in modern times, preserving not only its traditions, but also real legal privileges. It stands as one of the few examples where the past and present coexist side by side. We often perceive the nose as just an ordinary organ of smell, but in reality, it is incredibly complex. It was once believed that humans could distinguish around 10,000 scents. Today, we know that our nose can detect up to 1 trillion different aromas. It's a whole universe of sensations, from the smell of fresh bread to the subtle notes of smoke or gas that can warn us of danger. Think about it. The nose helps you recall childhood memories through the aroma of grandma's pies or feel the excitement of spring through the scent of damp earth. We tend to consider sight as the primary sense, but the nose is a true superhero, working quietly and unnoticed, saving us from mistakes every day and filling our lives with memories. The oldest university in the world was established in the 9th century in Morocco. It was founded by a woman, Fatima Al-Fihri. She invested her inheritance in the construction of a mosque and an educational center, which became a place of knowledge for thousands of students. It's remarkable that at a time when women had very few rights, one of them created an institution that has survived for centuries. Today, Al-Qarawiyyin University is still operational and is considered the oldest in the world. Fatima's story reminds us that great changes often come from those we least expect. Unexpectedly, the word sect originally had an honorable connotation rather than a frightening one. Today, sect refers to suspicious religious groups associated with deception or fanaticism. However, in ancient Rome, the term secta had a neutral meaning, school or teaching. It was used to describe philosophical movements and groups of students and followers. For example, the Stoics or Epicureans were considered sects. Only over time, as many religious communities with questionable reputations emerged, did the word take on a negative connotation. Ironically, a term that once meant school of knowledge has transformed into a frightening label. The history of language can be just as surprising as the history of humanity. The Hercules beetle truly lives up to its name. It can lift a weight that exceeds its own by 850 times. Imagine a person being able to lift a multi-ton truck. That's the ratio this tiny hero demonstrates. It inhabits tropical forests and primarily uses its strength to fight rivals and attract females. Males sport long horns with which they battle for the attention of the ladies. Despite its small size, this beetle is a true champion of strength in the insect world, a symbol that greatness is not determined by size. Nature once again proves that strength can come in the most unexpected forms. Robert Howard, the author of Conan the Barbarian, was a friend and ally of H.P. Lovecraft. Lovecraft, the creator of the Cthulhu mythos, was a close friend of Robert Howard, the legendary creator of Conan. They corresponded, discussed their works, and inspired each other. When Howard took his own life at the age of 30, Lovecraft was deeply shaken and soon succumbed to illness and depression. Their friendship became a link between Lovecraft's dark cosmic horror and Howard's heroic fantasy. Thus, two completely different genres, horror and epic adventure, somehow emerged from a single creative friendship. The term Black Panther sounds mysterious, as if it refers to a distinct species. In reality, it simply describes the coloration of leopards or jaguars. Some individuals exhibit melanism, an excess of dark pigment. Their fur becomes almost black, with spots only visible in sunlight. These animals make up about 11% of all leopards. In the jungle, they move like shadows, blending into the darkness. This rare coloration has turned them into legends and heroes of myths. So a panther isn't a new species, it's just a stylish, same leopard, but in a black suit. Nature sometimes plays with fashion too. In Australia, there is Lake Hillier, which changes color from soft pink to deep purple. This effect is created by special algae and minerals. Imagine flying in a plane and seeing a bright pink spot among the greenery of the island, as if a giant spilled strawberry yogurt. Scientists are still debating why the shade is so stable, as even in a bottle, the water from the lake retains its color. For tourists, it is one of the most unusual sights, a natural palette that looks like a scene from a sci-fi movie. Beneath the massive feet of elephants lies an intriguing secret. They have unique toes. These special bony structures help distribute their weight and allow the animals to move almost silently. Thanks to them, an elephant walks softly despite its tons of mass. They sense the ground like a cat's pads and provide stability even on unstable surfaces. This is why these giants can calmly tread on sand, clay, or even marshy land. Their gait is remarkably light, and if you close your eyes, you might not even notice a whole elephant sneaking up on you. Nature has once again demonstrated its engineering genius. Many people consider donkeys to be stubborn and dull animals, But in reality, they are much smarter and more emotional than they seem. Donkeys have excellent memories for friends, both humans and other animals, and can hold on to such memories for up to 20 years. They can sense their owner's mood, enjoy attention, feel jealous, and even become sad if ignored. In fact, donkeys have a rich inner world and value friendship just as much as dogs do. Therefore, it's not surprising that in countries where donkeys live alongside people, they are regarded not just as helpers, but almost as full-fledged family members. Those ears and gentle eyes hide much more than we tend to think. Leonardo da Vinci observed a mathematical law in the most ordinary trees. In his notes, he remarked that if you sum the thickness of all the branches of a tree at a certain height, it equals the thickness of the trunk. This remarkable observation has been confirmed by modern research. Trees that follow this rule withstand strong winds and storms better. Leonardo made a discovery that ecologists and biologists still use today. It turns out that the artist and inventor recognized patterns in nature that science was only able to prove centuries later. A true example of how a genius was ahead of his time. The story of Jack Daniels holds a secret. Its origins are tied to an African-American master. Nathan Nearest Green was born into slavery, and after gaining his freedom, he became a true distillation expert. He taught young Jack Daniel the art of distillation. Today, his name is officially recognized as the first master distiller at the distillery where the legendary brand later emerged. For a long time, this was kept quiet, and only recently has the story come to light. It turns out that the recipe for the famous whiskey owes its existence to a man who has been nearly forgotten. This serves as a reminder that many brands have invisible heroes behind them. Even carousels in different countries spin in different directions. In the UK, carousels traditionally rotate clockwise, while in the US and continental Europe, they turn counterclockwise. This difference stems from the fact that in the past, carousel figures were designed for easier mounting from the left side. The British deemed one direction correct, while those across the ocean chose another. The result is a curious phenomenon. The same amusement moves in opposite directions in different parts of the world. It may seem like a minor detail, but it highlights how culture influences even entertainment. Did you know that avocado can be deadly for animals? For humans, this fruit is beneficial. Vitamins, healthy fats, trendy toasts. But for birds and horses, avocado is toxic. A substance called persin in their bodies causes severe poisoning, sometimes with fatal outcomes. So what is a superfood for us is a poison for animals. This serves as a reminder that we can't measure everything by human standards. Even familiar foods can be dangerous if an organism isn't adapted to them. What is beneficial for one form of life can be harmful to another. Avocado nearly disappeared from the face of the earth and survived only thanks to humans. Once, giant Pleistocene animals, mammoths, giant sloths, and woolly rhinoceroses ate avocado fruits whole and helped spread the seeds. But these giants went extinct, and the plant could have vanished with them. However, humans stepped in. Our ancestors began cultivating avocados and preserving their culture for thousands of years. Today, we see it as a trendy ingredient for smoothies and toast, but in reality, it serves as a living reminder that many species survived only because humans became their partners. The story of Charles Goodyear proves that even the greatest discovery does not guarantee happiness and wealth. Charles Goodyear, the man who discovered the process of vulcanizing rubber, lived a life filled with debt and legal troubles. He accidentally found a way to make rubber durable and resistant to heat and cold, but instead of riches, he faced endless problems. Goodyear died a poor man, never seeing the recognition he deserved. 40 years after his death, the Goodyear Company emerged, simply adopting his name as a mark of respect. Today, millions of cars run on tires bearing his name, but the inventor received not a penny from it. The story serves as a reminder that talent does not always go hand in hand with luck. The paradox is that nuclear energy is considered safer than conventional coal and gas. Many people associate nuclear power with accidents and radiation danger, recalling Chernobyl or Fukushima, and that ends the discussion. However, statistics tell a different story. When comparing the number of victims and illnesses caused by various energy sources, coal and gas prove to be far more dangerous. Hundreds of thousands suffer from lung diseases due to emissions from power plants, while the climate takes a severe hit. In contrast, nuclear plants generate energy with almost no carbon emissions, and accidents are extremely rare. Thus, we have a paradox. The frightening word nuclear instills fear, even though in reality, it saves lives. Today, over 1,300,000,000 people know and use English. It is not only an official language in dozens of countries, but also the language of the internet, science, and business. This means that even if you find yourself in an unfamiliar corner of the world, the chances of being able to communicate in English are still high. It has become something like a universal translator between nations. Of course, every language has its own beauty, but English has become the bridge that connects millions of different cultures. One could say it is a true key to the global world. Polar bears appear to be snowy creatures, as if sculpted from ice. However, if you push aside their thick fur, you'll find that their skin is not white, but black. This color helps the animals absorb solar heat more effectively and retain it in harsh Arctic conditions. Thus, the white fur serves as camouflage, while the bear's true clothing acts as a heater. This dual mechanism allows them to survive in temperatures that drop below -40. So the polar bear is not just a fluffy giant, but a true engineering marvel of nature, where everything is meticulously designed. Sometimes large numbers seem empty and abstract, but here's an interesting example. 1 billion seconds is about 32 years. That's a span of time comparable to a whole human life, from birth to maturity. Imagine a baby being born, taking its first steps, going to school, graduating from university, and all of this fits into 1 billion seconds. The word billion sounds like an unimaginably large amount, but in reality, it's just one segment of a human biography. This simple calculation helps us understand how valuable each day is. After all, time doesn't flow in billions, but in small pieces, and it all depends on how we choose to live them. Chicago is known as the Windy City, and many believe it's all about the weather. In reality, the nickname originated in the 19th century and referred to the city's politicians, who were famous for their long and pompous speeches. Journalists sarcastically remarked that Chicago was blown by the wind, not due to the climate, but because of empty words. Of course, the city does experience winds from Lake Michigan, but historically, it's more of a jab at talkative politicians than a meteorological fact. Interestingly, over time, the original meaning was forgotten, and the nickname remained, becoming the city's official calling card. It may seem that sports should unite people, but one day a football field became the spark for war. It sounds absurd, but in 1969, football matches were the last straw in the conflict between Honduras and El Salvador. The teams faced off on the field, but underlying their game were much sharper issues: overpopulation, land disputes, and social tension. The matches added fuel to the fire, leading to a war that would later be called the Football War. It lasted only a few days, but claimed thousands of lives. The irony is that a sport meant for unity and joy unexpectedly became the trigger for a real tragedy. It may seem like ordinary things, but if you take a closer look, they hold the most unexpected stories. If you enjoyed this journey through the world of curiosities, hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. There's even more to come.